Congratulations, you got the job. The pay is good. The hours are flexible. You never have to meet your subject. You just have to watch. The listing found you on a freelance platform you'd been using for months. Corporate surveillance contractor. No experience necessary. Equipment provided. You apply on a Tuesday afternoon between two loads of laundry. You get a response within the hour. A phone call. A man with a flat, professional voice explains the role. A client needs eyes on an individual. Behavioral documentation. Activity logs. Nothing illegal. Just observation. You ask if it's legal. He pauses just long enough. Completely above board, he says. Standard corporate due diligence. You need the money. You say yes before he finishes the sentence. The equipment arrives in a plain brown box 2 days later. A laptop with custom software already installed. A long-range camera with a lens that can read a license plate from 400 feet. A small manual with instructions so clean and simple, it almost feels like assembling furniture. Log in. Enter subject ID. Begin documentation. That's it. You set everything up at your kitchen table. It takes 20 minutes. The subject's file appears on your screen. No name, just a number. C119. A photo. An address. A daily schedule typed out in clean bullet points. Leaves for work at 8:10. Returns between 6 and 6:30. Grocery run on Thursdays. Coffee shop on Saturday mornings. Same place, same table by the window. You study the photo for a moment. She looks ordinary, the kind of person you'd stand behind in line at the pharmacy and never think about again. You close the file. You open the camera software. You point the lens toward the address. You begin. Day 1 is boring. She leaves at 8:12, 2 minutes late. You log it. She's wearing a gray coat. You log that too. She comes home at 6:19. Carries a tote bag on her left shoulder. You note it all in the documentation portal. Clean, precise, professional. You close the laptop at 7 o'clock and make dinner. It feels like data entry. It feels like nothing. By day 3, you know her routine better than your own. The way she always checks her phone before she unlocks her front door. The specific window she opens first every morning. Always the one on the left. The fact that she stands at her kitchen counter to eat lunch instead of sitting down. Small things. Meaningless things. But you notice them because noticing is the job. And you are good at the job. The flat-voiced man calls on Friday. Weekly check-in. You read him your logs. He listens without interrupting. Good work, he says. Keep going. He asks if you have any questions. You almost ask what this is for, what they're looking for, what S119 did to deserve this level of attention, but you don't. You already decided not to ask that question on day 1. Asking it now would only make it worse. Week 2, you start recognizing her friends. A woman with red hair who visits on Wednesday evenings and stays for exactly 2 hours. A man she meets for lunch on Tuesdays. Always the same restaurant, always the same corner booth. You start assigning them names in your head. Red. Tuesday. It makes the documentation faster. It makes it easier to track patterns. Week 3. Something shifts. Not in her. In you. You start checking the feed before you've had coffee. You start keeping the laptop open during dinner. You tell yourself it's professional diligence, but the logs are more detailed now than the manual requires. You're noting things they never asked for. The book she carried out of the library on a Thursday. The way she paused at a flower stall for a full minute before walking on without buying anything. You write it all down. You tell yourself that's the only reason you do it. You notice she laughs a lot. Not the polite kind. The kind that catches people off guard. The kind where she has to put her hand over her mouth. You see it through the lens when she's on the phone outside the coffee shop. You can't hear it, but you can see her whole body shake with it. You log. Subject appears to be in good spirits. You close the laptop faster than usual that evening. You don't ask yourself why. The flat-voiced man calls again. He sounds pleased. He mentions a bonus if documentation continues at this quality. He says the client appreciates thoroughness. You don't ask who the client is. You stop thinking about asking that somewhere around day 9. Day 22, Thursday. You're set up at your usual position. Camera angled toward her building. Laptop open. Coffee going cold on the table beside you. She comes out at her usual time, but she stops at the bottom of the steps. She looks up. Not at you, at the sky. It's raining lightly. She doesn't have an umbrella. She stands there for a moment, face tilted up, eyes closed, just standing in the rain, not rushing, not pulling out her phone, just existing in it. You watch through the lens. You don't type anything. For 2 full minutes, you don't type a single thing. Then she opens her eyes, pulls her coat tighter, and walks toward the subway. You look at your blank log entry for a long time before you finally write. Subject deviated from standard exit routine, paused at building entrance approximately 120 seconds. No discernible cause. You read it back. You delete it. You write it again. You close the laptop. That night, you look at the original photo in her file for the first time in 2 weeks. She's laughing in it, the same laugh you saw through the lens at the coffee shop. The hand over the mouth. You close the file. You open the payments portal. Your balance has grown steadily, more than you've made in any comparable stretch. You think about what the money is for. Rent. The loan. Getting ahead for once, instead of just keeping up. Good reasons. Real reasons. Reasons that were true on day 1 and are still true now. You open the laptop. You check the feed. The light in her apartment is on. You watch the window until it goes dark. Week 4. The flat-voiced man calls with new instructions. The client wants closer documentation. They've identified a specific individual she's been in contact with. Tuesday. The man from the corner booth. They want logs on him too. His movements, his schedule, where he goes after the lunch. You write down the instructions. You say you understand. You don't ask why they're widening the scope. You already know you won't ask. That was decided a long time ago. Back when you said yes between 2 loads of laundry, you follow Tuesday for 3 days. He leads a life so ordinary, it's almost funny. Gym in the morning. Office. Corner booth on Tuesdays. Home by 8. You document all of it. Clean, precise, professional. By the end of the 3rd day, you have a complete behavioral profile on a man you've never spoken to and never will. You file the report. The flat-voiced man says, "Excellent." The client is very pleased. He mentions the possibility of a long-term contract, ongoing documentation, consistent pay. You say you're interested. You hear yourself say it. You don't stop yourself. Day 28. A new request arrives, buried at the bottom of the weekly instructions like it's routine. The client wants access logs, not just observation from outside. Building access codes, delivery schedules, the times she's reliably not home. You read it twice. This isn't documentation anymore. This is a floor plan. You tell yourself there's a difference between watching someone and knowing when their apartment is empty. You tell yourself that difference matters. You compile the report anyway. Your hands don't shake when you type it. You notice that they don't, and that bothers you more than if they had. She comes home at her usual time, goes inside, comes back out 20 minutes later in different clothes. Casual. Jeans and a jacket. She walks to the coffee shop, but doesn't go in. She stands outside, checks her phone, looks up and down the street, waiting for someone. You zoom in. Her expression is different. Nervous, maybe, or excited. The two things look almost the same. Tuesday arrives 8 minutes later. She smiles when she sees him. You almost call the flat-voiced man to ask what this is actually for. You have the number pulled up. Your thumb hovers over it for 11 seconds. Then you remember the bonus, the long-term contract, the rent that's due in 6 days. You put the phone down. You tell yourself you'll ask next time. You already know there won't be a next time you ask. There never has been. Day 31. She does something she's never done before. Not the hand over the mouth laugh. Something quieter, more careful. He says something. She looks down at the pavement for a second. Then she nods. They walk inside together. You sit there for a long time after they disappear through the door. You file the report. New behavioral pattern. Subject and associated contact meeting outside established routine. You attach the timestamps. You attach the photos. You attach the access logs you compiled 3 days ago because the instructions said to include everything relevant. And you decide, quietly, that this counts. You hit send before you can decide it doesn't. And then you sit in the quiet of your apartment. Camera on the table. Laptop screen glowing. Logs complete. And you think about day 1. The plain brown box. The furniture assembly instructions. Completely above board. You needed the money. You said yes before he finished the sentence. Your phone buzzes. The flat-voiced man. Not a call this time. A message. Client wants to escalate. Next phase. Call me tomorrow. You look at the message. You look at the photos you just sent. You look at the camera on the table. You think about the long-term contract. The consistent pay. Getting ahead for once. Good reasons. Real reasons. You think about the laugh you can never hear through the lens. The 2 minutes she stood in the rain with her eyes closed. The way she looked at the pavement when Tuesday said something to her. Small things. Meaningless things. Things nobody asked you to notice but that you noticed anyway because you were watching so closely, for so long, that somewhere along the way the subject stopped being S119. You set the phone face down. You pick it up again. You already know which way this goes. You knew on day 1, really. You just didn't look at it directly. It's easier not to. The job is clean. The money is real. The subject is just a number, and you are just someone who watches. You type back. What time?